We'll see you next time, and remember to leave gaming to Nintendo.
Matt, this is a new episode, dude.
Ah, shit! Hello and welcome to the Just Another Castle podcast. I'm your host Matt, and with me this week is our resident gaming journalist Eli.
How you guys doing?
Good. And our retro aficionado Unoclay.
I was thinking I'm gonna take some of them taters home with me. How's my Sling Blade impression? Is it coming along?
I thought you were just being some Texan.
I was trying to freak my wife out earlier by doing Sling Blade and complimenting her cooking.
Matt, is there such thing as like a Western accent in Canada?
Yeah, probably. I'm not sure which accent it would be. I know Rick Mercer has a really weird accent, but that's more like Nova Scotian accent, I think. So like the East more than the West, but I'm sure there's something weird. Manitoba, maybe.
Yeah. That's funny, man. I was out in Nova Scotia already, and they sure do talk like Nova Scotia out there. It's for real.
Yeah.
So, neat stuff.
Well,
that's enough accents. What about Nintendo?
Alright, let's get started. We'll start with what we've been playing. Before we get to anything, though, I'll just say that apparently 450 Nintendo network accounts were hacked, so you can check a list for your account name or your email and see if you were hacked.
Realistically speaking, you have like a 1 in 0.02 chance or something of that being your account, but check anyway. But don't worry.
Yeah. I guess if you saved your credit card info, then you might be at risk for something. Other than that, I don't think there's any other real risk.
Yeah, I've gotten over saving my credit card in any service, because of all these hacks and stuff like that. I mean, you can't avoid it on some level because, online stuff, but with things you can, it's I don't know. It's annoying to type your credit card every time you buy something in Nintendo Network, but I mean, it's a lot more annoying to have to get a new credit card every year, which has pretty much happened to me for 3 years in a row. So, yeah. That's.
I guess hackers are just welcoming Nintendo into the online ecosystem by hacking them like they do with Sony. They're you're gonna charge for money? We'll hack you too. You're welcome.
They're finally relevant. Look at them.
Yeah. You're not relevant until you've been hacked.
It's kind of true in a weird way.
To the game part, actually, I do want to bring up one other thing before games. I'm running a contest for Volcanion, so it's a Pokemon that you can only get with a specific code. And they actually expire at the end of the month, so I'm just running a little contest that, all it requires is just some feedback on a video I made. You can just find more information about that on my YouTube channel at The Mango Viking. But yeah, there's not a lot of contestants, unfortunately, so far, so your chances of winning one are very good because I'm giving away 5 codes, 1 per person. And so far there's 3. So and one of them didn't technically do it right, and I might have to remind them, but
for those of us who don't know, what is the prize exactly? What do you get?
It is Pokemon.
It's a rare Pokemon, Clay. You wouldn't even know. You're not good enough for him.
Dude. Oh, let me get this straight. A rare Pokemon? What is it? Is it a grass type?
No, it's a fire water. It's the only one of its type.
Both fire and water at the same time, Clay.
It's a steam Pokemon.
My head is exploding. Pokemon.
Yeah.
Nice. Well, that's cool. That's cool of you. So the mangoviking.com, there's a contest. People listen to that. Or Mango Viking YouTube channel. YouTube channel, sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry. That's awesome.
But yeah, moving away from shilling and all that crap. I actually did play some games this week. Over the Christmas, I was playing some of Origami, which is a stealth game. I don't really know how to feel about it. I don't hate it. I mean, I enjoy it, but so far hasn't really like stood out to, I don't know, make much mention of it yet. I think I'm on like the 5th chapter or something. I've either beaten the 5th chapter or I'm gonna start it, but I think I'm like a third of the way through at least. It's good so far. I'm enjoying it. I think it's like a $20 download on Steam or something, so it's not bad. But I have been playing Kirby Planet Robobot, and I've been having a lot of fun with that. It's a Kirby game. I don't really know what else to say. If you like one, you pretty much like them all. As usual, they have a plethora of abilities, and the new ones are pretty cool too. I like the poison one just because has a lot of versatility versus some of the other ones. I do like the doctor one where his dash attack is he's shoving his like degree in your face. Actually, it's not a degree. It's just it's a clipboard. But I keep imagining like it's his degree and he's just gloating and shoving it in people's faces and being like, "You're nothing. I went to school for 12 years." But
would you say it's like as easy as a lot of like Kirby games? I forget if we talked about this game before in the podcast. It was a little while ago. I think maybe Mike was playing it, but I don't remember if he remarked on the difficulty or not.
Yeah, it's pretty much like every other Kirby game as far as difficulty goes. You can find extra like cubes in the level, and if you find them all in all the levels, you unlock a bonus level. And you also need a certain amount just to get to the boss as well. You can pretty much get them on your first run through. It's not that hard. Like, if you've played video games long enough, you know, okay, here's an extra path I can see I should take and, make a note of that and that sort of thing. I'm finished the 3rd world, or I think I finished the 4th world. No, I finished the 4th world out of 5 worlds, and maybe there's a 6th one, I don't know. So I'm like at least halfway through. I like it, it's pretty fun. I like the mech suit. The mech suit, can do its own things, like punch a lot of crap, and solve certain puzzles. And then you have, the mech suit can also have other copy abilities. So if you, get the cutter ability, now you have like drills or, saws for arms, and then you can have blades for arms and, all this other stuff. And it's pretty fun. I really like it. It's a cool addition to the game to make this one a bit more different.
It's funny because like I always want to like Kirby, and then I play any of them except for the Amazing Mirror, like for like a minute, and then I just think they're so boring because they're so easy, and it's a struggle because it's like I want to like it. It looks like the art styles always look pretty cool or at least reasonable and interesting to me, but it just has never worked out for me. So if you're saying, if you're Code, when you say it sounds like Code, you're like, well, if you played one Kirby, you played them all. Well, then you're basically saying it's so easy. You could play it if you duct taped like the control pad to walk right. And you just be like, okay, it'll play itself. Like it's if I'm reading you correctly, it's that easy. It's like, it's more like a fun thing than a challenge at all, or am I wrong?
Yeah. What I meant by that was like, it follows the same structure as every other like Kirby platformer. So, I mean, it's not like this really drastically changes how you play compared to before. It's more the same for it. But, I mean, yeah, the Kirby series isn't really known for its it started off specifically to be easy, to counterbalance like all of the harder games out there. So, newer players would have something to do, but, the one feature it's always touted is that it's not about the difficulty, it's just about the fun aspect of playing with all these abilities. And each ability usually has more than one move, like in Smash Brothers. At one point it was just, you get this one fire ability and you breathe fire and that's it, but now they have like 6 or 7 moves at least.
Cool.
So yeah,
that
if you
neat.
push in a direction, like it does one move, and if you do something in the air, it does another, or if you might do a combo, it does another thing. So they do add a lot in that aspect, which makes them more fun than the classic ones, I would say.
Right. That's cool. I didn't know that. Yeah, because I'm more familiar with the really old ones, which pretty much like you get a sword, or like I don't know, like you turn into a cloud, or I don't even remember. They're just like, cool, okay, I'm a cloud. But once you figure out the best one, you're like, all right, I've got the one where you can do judo. I'm just gonna never lose this one and just keep like punching people as hard as they can, and then it's like, oh, this is too easy, as I've said before. Interesting. Well, because I keep looking at that game at the store, and it's on discount a lot of places now, and I'm like, oh, I see it at like GameStop, and I'm like, $20 or $18 or whatever for a Kirby game. That's probably a good deal, right? Or whatever it was when I saw it. And I didn't pull the trigger because I knew I'd probably have the same reaction, but sounds like you're having fun with it, at least.
Yeah. And I like the mech suit because, there's some enemies on the board that you wouldn't normally be able to destroy because it's supposed to be like an obstacle. But if you have the mech suit, you can basically kill like anything in your way. So it's just fun to like wreak havoc. Like, yeah, you killed me before. I'm gonna punch the crap out of you and make this thing blow up. It's cathartic. You're like,
yeah.
I mean, like you don't really get hurt all that much, but it's just fun to beat something up that before was impossible. Like literally in the game. So, and then the last thing is, the 3DS doesn't really use 3D much in its games, or I should say it doesn't really leverage it. I do like having the 3D on, and I always turn the 3D on because I like it. But, this game actually does kind of make use of it. So, like in one level, like they flip with planes a lot, so there'll be one, like the foreground and the background, and sometimes with certain stars, you'll be pushed to the background or, brought forward to the foreground. And there's one level in the water where there's sharks swimming, from the foreground to the background and then back to the foreground again. And I tried turning the 3D off, and it is kind of hard, to tell, like, how close they are. Like, obviously you can see they're coming for you because their face is directed toward you. But you can't necessarily tell, how far away, as in, like, the depth. But if you turn the 3D on, you can actually tell. And I really like that. It's just like a cool addition that no one seems to mess with, and it does actually look good with the 3D. Like all the things pop out of it. So I'm happy to see that.
Games do that. Like I was always someone who liked the 3D aspect of my 3DS. I mean, it's not like I play with it on all the time, but I like it when they use it intelligently or in cool ways like that. So that's neat. That they're still supporting it to some degree on some tiny level.
Yeah. So. I think that's pretty much the only game that has really used the 3D much, even though the previous Kirby game came out several years after the 3DS. I'd say was it Triple Deluxe, this Planet Robobot, and probably Pushmo were the few games to really use it. Maybe Super Mario 3D Land, but you could play that with it off just fine as well. But yeah, it's just cool to see, like, hey, like they're still using it. They don't really have to at this point, but
yeah.
But why don't we move on to Eli? What have you been playing?
So I made a big purchase. In preparation for buying a 4K TV, which I don't know when that's going to happen, either now or like later, but it's going to happen eventually. They're getting cheaper now, so you can get them pretty affordably. And so I'm looking into getting an HDR one, with a good warranty, and I'm hoping like for $700-ish, since, I haven't really bought any big consoles in a little while. I could probably get one of those TVs, but in preparation for that, I ended up picking up PS4 Pro. Now, there was I got some pushback on Twitter when I did this because the PS4 Pro really is useless. There's not much of a point to get it. It's only, it's a little more powerful than the PS4 original. It's got the only difference is it's got a terabyte of memory instead of 500 gigabytes. It's got faster internet connectivity, so games download faster, as do updates. And the other thing is, if you have a 4K TV, you can play games that work with it with HDR. So that's not all games, but some games are coming out with HDR support. So like Uncharted has HDR support. I think Final Fantasy had HDR support. So for me, right now, it doesn't really have a benefit. However, the PS4, there was a trade-in value where you could get $200 for a trade-in with PS4 GameStop if you put it towards the Nintendo Switch. So I went ahead and did that. So really, I got the PS4 Pro for $200. So for 500 gigabytes of more memory and a 4K enabled device, and also like faster loading times and other benefits of processing power, I think that maybe it was worth it, maybe not, but I figured I would splurge. The big thing though, the biggest reason I ended up getting a PS4 Pro is that my warranty expired on the old PS4. I had a 3-year accidental warranty. So Sony sells really cheap ones. So like $60 for 3 years, and anything that happens to your PS4, they'll cover. And it expired. And so just me being psychotic and terrified, I kind of bought it for the warranty too, because I'll just put down 16 more bucks on the warranty. I'll have another PS4, this one that's better than the other one, insured for 3 years. Anything that happens, it'll be okay. I can just send it back to Sony. No problem with that. And so that's really, I think, the biggest reason why I ended up getting a replacement. And so as for gaming, I ended up picking up, so I actually ended up playing a Call of Duty game. I played through Advanced Warfare, which is a 2014 game, so it's the third to last game that came out. And, it was fun to just shoot through it. That's the one with Kevin Spacey in it, so that was kind of fun. I had a friend that come over and watch, and we both love House of Cards, so it's just kind of cool to have the character in there. It's kind of, it's not the same character, but kind of the same sort of character. He was like the bad guy in the TV show and in the game. And then I ended up playing Dishonored 2, which I'm only kind of a little bit into, and it's fun so far, but I suck at stealth games, so I'm dying a decent amount, and I'm getting used to that.
So curious, why did you get Dishonored?
I found it on sale, so I ended up, I buy a lot of games on sale, and so I got it for like $25 or something, and so I was willing to try it out. I played the first one, but I stopped playing the first one about halfway through, because the way it worked is that if you killed too many people, then rats would infest the city, and they would just like do damage to you pretty much anywhere you went.
Oh my gosh.
So at one point it just became a nuisance, and I'm like, all right, I'm done with this game. In this one, I heard that feature was taken out, and either way, I'm playing a little more stealthily this time around. I'm a little bit better at it. So I'm hoping that I'll get through it all right. I played through Deus Ex all right, so I'm hoping I can do the same with Dishonored 2. And it got really good reviews, which is really why I ended up picking it up. And I don't remember if I talked about Final Fantasy 16 and how I beat that. I mean, 15.
I don't think so.
Okay, so I ended up beating Final Fantasy 15. So I'm actually, I keep track of all the games I beat, and I've already beaten 4 games this year, so I'm just going to pat myself on the back on that one, because, that's probably the fastest I've played video games in like 4 or 5 years. And I've got, Final Fantasy 15, excellent game. I definitely recommend picking it up. It's on sale all the time now. You can probably get it for 25 or 30 bucks. Tons of hours of gameplay. A straight run through will probably take you 30 to 40 hours. The side content's a lot more. And, as I said before in a previous show, what I really love about it is that there are story missions. There's, 14, 15 chapters, which are the story missions. And in between, it's just like, do whatever you want. Level up however you want. Do whatever side missions you want. Go on hunts if you want. Stick to one side of the map if you want. There's so many different ways to go about it. And the game is gorgeous, and the world is appealing, and the monsters are cool to fight. Honestly, I think it's probably, I have to go look at the list again, but probably one of the favorite games that came out last year for me. It was just really spectacular. And also part of that might do with the fact that RPG is just my favorite genre. And action RPGs are really awesome, but still definitely recommend it for anyone that's interested. Oh, and I played Watch Dogs 2. I played through that and beat it.
Oh, nice. I've seen you talk about it on Twitter, but we didn't really talk about it much because we were talking about the Switch before, so
yeah,
what was that like?
I mean, it was okay. It's like, so I liked the first Watch Dogs. It was all right. I thought it was a good, solid open world game. I'm not a huge fan of the second one. I think it's worse than the first one, actually, even though a lot of people thought the opposite. Not by a lot. Like, I guess the first one I'd say is a solid, good to great game. I think that Watch Dogs 2 is just like okay. San Francisco, like the city is pretty appealing, and the fact that they've got the Silicon Valley and the way everything's structured, it's really cool. But they're just like, the missions are boring, and the big thing, as I said, it lacked an identity, because it tried to pull off this thing where it tried to be quirky and crazy, like GTA or to a larger extent Saints Row, but then it tried to have this like grounded in reality message like the first Watch Dogs game. And in the end, it just didn't really have much of either. It was like a game where the characters tried to be quirky and the design tried to be quirky, but then like the game itself was pretty serious, and your like GTA and Saints Row do this thing where everything is kind of overblown and out of proportion. Like, you'll be driving and the radio ads will just be for crazy shit. It'll be like, hormonal treatment of some kind, or, just crazy shit. And Watch Dogs 2 didn't have that. It was like, it took itself seriously in all the wrong places, and that's why I felt it had, why it had the identity crisis that it did.
I really like the first one. I'm still playing through it on Wii U, but it's like just I don't play games like that all straight in a row. I think we've talked about this before. Like I just too much of the same thing for too long, so I end up like kind of like going back to it and stuff. But I mean, was it too similar to the first one, just lacking an identity? It didn't do enough new stuff? Maybe
Yeah, I mean, there were a few new features, like there's a drone you can use, there's like this, there were some elements that I think were improved upon, like, it would take these elements of Assassin's Creed where it'd bring you into an environment and just be like, go and infiltrate it however you like. And that would be cool because you could either shoot everything up, or you could send in a drone to examine it, or send in a little, car to run through, it's not a car, but a little, like, wheeled drone. And that was pretty cool, because you could scope out the area and really approach it in your own way. And that's where I think there was an improvement over the first game. But yeah, a lot of it, like the hacking, a lot was very similar. It was more linear than the first game, in my opinion. Kind of constrained you to parts of the map. It just overall was less fun, I think, than the first one. Maybe it was because, I had played the first one and just didn't feel as new.
Got it. Yeah, because I mean, like, for me, games like that, I put a lot of space between them, and it's like the fact that, like, I haven't even finished the first one after, like, a year or more of playing it, it's like, tells me a lot. I don't really need a sequel to a game like that exactly at this time of my life, so that's interesting.
And I mean, in a broader context, there's other stuff where, like, the always social type of thing. In the first game, it had it where people could just jump into your game, and, automatically I just turned that off because I don't want people screwing with my single player game. If I want to play a multiplayer game, which is pretty rare that actually happens. If I want to play a multiplayer game, I'll go and play a multiplayer game. I don't want you invading my single player. Yeah. Get out of it.
Do you think Ubisoft... Oh, sorry, go.
Sorry. No, it's okay. The invasion stuff, like, sometimes is annoying, but I like it, so I try not to get annoyed at it, because I'm like, wow, this is innovative. It's a neat idea, But yeah, it's like you're just about to save the game and turn off for the night, and someone invades your game, and you're like, no, no. And there's a flaw, at least in the, I think it's a flaw. Like, I've never bothered to figure it out. Like, in the Wii U version, people can hide inside, like, textures or, like, walls and just gun you down. And they do it a lot at this one section of the map where it's really, like, it's just so annoying, because I am positive it must be a flaw, like, kind of a loophole in the game, sort of, because people always go to this one spot on an overpass, and it seems like you can get inside, like, basically the train overpass, like, and sit there and just gun you down no matter what you do and hack you. And it's like, what the, like, this sucks,
So you're saying they're playing the game properly. They hacked the game. It's all about the game's own.
They've gone inside the matrix of the game itself. Yes. Like, I didn't even think of it that way. I'm just the big loser who's the muggle running around, like, with, like, no ability to, like, fight back. It's wonderful fun. Yeah. Anyway, sorry. Matt, what were you going to say? You were about to ask a question about Watch Dogs?
I was going to say, do you think Ubisoft is putting out too many open world games? I think I was watching, like, a Jimquisitioner or something, and I think he brought it up, but it is kind of insane. They have Assassin's Creed, they have Far Cry, they have Watch Dogs, they have The Division, I think some other ones. It just seems like, aren't people going to get tired of these games, like, especially when they're supposed to take, like, 30 to 40 hours or whatnot?
I mean, I would agree with what you're saying personally, but I can never really judge that stuff, because, like, it seems like people play a lot of games that in a genre where I have that exact same feeling, like, where, I don't know, RPGs strike me that way, with no offense intended to Eli, but being one of his favorite genres, that I'm like, they're just all the same. Like, how can you play these 80-hour experiences where, it's really just like leveling up stats, like, or whatever, but, they sell well, so.
Yeah, and I mean, I think part of it's just my affinity for numbers. I like stats, and I think a lot of gamers, as, tech guys or geeks or whatever, a lot of us do like numbers, and the whole process of an RPG of strengthening certain stats, of, targeting your character in a certain direction, this or that and the other. I think for a lot of, has appeal for that reason.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, I get it. I used to be into them. It's like, it's funny. I was only using it as a random example just because you brought it up. It's like, I mean, any genre has that feeling. I tend to counteract that by skipping from genre to genre constantly because I'm like what you're saying, Matt, is like, is this one company overboarding it? Well, in a way, you might say they are, but at the same time, there's a really big market just like for first person shooters for open world games. So,
well, I mean, the difference being with those games, they don't take like 40 hours long, right? That's the comparison I'm making. Like with first person shooters, like you play for 10 hours and you finish the campaign or whatever, and then you can keep moving on. And most games are like 8 to 12 hours. And then you have like these RPGs or these open world games that could be like endless basically. And it's like one company is putting out like 4 compared to, and then there's like everyone else. It's like, it's not getting a bit much.
Yeah.
Like how do you expect all your, like just with the one company, how do you expect everyone to buy all these games when they're too busy like taking forever just to finish the one game?
Yeah, it's a good question. You kind of step up on your own market share, but I mean, I don't know. That style of game is so popular. So it's what it is. It's what it is. I guess they must be making money on it. They won't keep doing it, you know?
I guess so. I would just wonder if it's, how long until that crashes on them.
Right, till that bubble.
Moving along. Right? What have you been up to, Unoclay?
I've been playing some stuff. I'll keep it short and sweet, but the retro report this week is mostly retro. I mean, the only kind of current thing I've been continuing to play is like the Oddworld remake that you can get on Wii U and other systems. It's awesome. If you want to play an adventure puzzle game, it's a really good one. It's got a lot of content to it and a lot of different, pretty tough puzzles, and it's enjoyable. And I mentioned it before, and it's Oddworld, called Oddworld New and Tasty. It's a full remake of the original Oddworld. It's neat. It's probably around $10 on Wii U, and I think it's worth it. Other than that, rewinding backwards through time, I've been playing an open world game, only it's on GameCube, and it's pretty amazing that a game of this girth is on GameCube. I had never played the True Crime Streets of LA game. Either of you guys ever play that one? It was...
No, can't say I have.
Yeah, it was on GameCube. I've seen it on like used shelves and used bins for years, and I got it for like literally $5. I hate when people overuse literally, but I just did it. But it was literally $5.
You're using it correctly. That's the distinction. That's fine.
I know, but yeah, yeah, thank you. It's a technological feat worth noting. I don't know that it's worth going back and playing for people who are more used to games like, say, Watch Dogs. But given that during the GameCube era, I was really busy with my masters, I didn't play a lot of video games in those years because, studying, etc. It's more of a technological marvel because, you know, this is the early 2000s, I'm going to guess. And, probably the era around, I'd have to look it up, but it's probably around the era of like, Grand Theft Auto 3. And then like one was on GameCube and it works really well and the load times are relatively low, especially compared to like, say, a PlayStation experience of the same era. So it's called Streets of LA, True Crime Streets of LA. It's most notable because it's really violent for a Nintendo game. You shoot the heck out of people. You crash cars. It's an open world, you know, sandboxy, like it's like a GTA clone in a lot of ways, only you're playing as a cop. And he's a cop with a bad attitude, and it's openly tongue in cheek, where he like quotes Evil Dead. He'll be like, "Look, say hello to my boomstick," and stuff, like all kinds of quips and things like that, you know. So it's funny. Not my recommendation for the week. I've also been playing Secret of Mana, which is a very famous RPG on Super Nintendo. It's good. People who want to play a classic RPG, the Super Nintendo has tons of them. And the thing about Secret of Mana that's fondly remembered by a lot of people is that, it's sort of a bridge between a JRPG and an adventure Zelda-esque RPG adventure action game where instead of just like encountering and then having like numbers based battles the way, you know, you do in say like Pokemon or et cetera, it's like, it's like, I'm trying to put the right words on. I'm not super adept at reviewing the genre, but like, you have real time fighting on a map where say an enemy spawns, a slime spawns and you have to attack him and you do it with an actual sword, not numbers, not menus. But you have a timeout where your weapon has to recharge, sort of like Xenoblade or something like that, to put it in modern terms. And so you kind of have to dodge or parry or do something else during that time. You have teammates and they have the same limitation. Their weapons recharge on a timer. So you're like making hits and looking for critical hits and all that kind of stuff. And then dodging the enemy's attack. But it's very RPG-ish. You know, you walk around on a map and you're going to villages and you're going to the inn, you're buying armor and you're leveling up. The thing that keeps me playing it is, in fact, because it does have the action element. It's not just menus. Because I'm not enough just into the numbers part that Eli was mentioning to like want to play a game purely like that anymore. It's got like the adventure, like control component that keeps me playing it. It's neat. It's definitely part of the big Nintendo scope of history, because this was a big one, I believe, back in the day, along with the likes of stuff like Chrono Trigger and, you know, other really famous RPGs that were on that system. So, Secret of Mana, a lot of people know it, or a lot of people have heard of it. It's definitely cool. It's by Squaresoft. So, you know, it's got heritage, it's got roots, you know, so, for stuff that's companies that still make good games, these days, and albeit new company layouts and such. So that's, I could go on. I've been playing some other stuff, but that'll be my review for this week. I'd probably say Secret of Mana or Oddworld, depending on your taste, would be my recommendations. So, yeah, if you want a good one, you can go back to either one of those. So that's it. Mike's joining us this week. I don't think I see Mike in the chat.
I don't think so, no.
Mike, have you played Smash this week? Yeah, I've been playing Smash trash. All right, it's a review from Mike.
Yeah, I didn't know that about Secret of Mana, that you had to recharge your sword and whatnot. That's kind of cool. Yeah. And dodge. It plays hard. Like Link to the Past, like the fact that it's top down, but then it has like this other element that's pretty neat.
Yeah, it is a little bit like Link to the Past. It's got graphics, it's not made by Nintendo, so it doesn't have that exact art style, but it is a little bit like that, in fact, with the same perspective. And, it's somewhere between like a top-down Zelda like that and then an RPG, you know, it kind of bridges the gap, and it's hard, man. It's not for the faint of heart. It's got classic game difficulty where some of the boss encounters or like stronger enemies you'll randomly suddenly encounter. You'll be just fine. You'll be grinding along. And you do get killed, and you have to save. You have to go to the inn and save your progress and that kind of stuff. And then you'll get killed, and then you'll swear and be like, why is this game so? You're like, oh yeah, it's from like the early 90s. Of course it's this hard, you know. And then, you'll get to a boss where like the difficulty just spikes like really unfairly, and you'll be really angry at it for a few minutes because you're like, this is unfair. And then you realize, no, it's actually an okay game, because then you have to keep plugging away at it and going back and fighting the boss again and again until you figure out his moves and your dodges and stuff like that, you know, and then you move on, you know. So I'm putting time into it here and there. I'm not like, it's not exactly my kind of game, but I think for a lot of people, I think it would hold up really well if you're into RPGs and stuff like that. So.
Cool. So yeah, let's move on to some things that were announced this week. One of the first things, actually Unoclay brought to my attention is apparently, at least based on the forum post, you can sync a different Wii U gamepad to your console. So I'm guessing if someone hates you and destroys your gamepad, or it breaks, or apparently, according to the forum person, they just wanted the Zelda version, apparently you can switch them and actually sync a different one to your console. I didn't really look too much more into it. Did you, Unoclay?
It's just because it was really interesting to me to come across this, because we talked about it. Anyone who's been a frequent listener, we had a couple moments where we had the like light bulb moment of realizing when Nintendo stopped supporting Wii U and you break your tablet, you're done. You're donezo, baby. Like now, you know, what's up? Then Nintendo's not going to repair these consoles forever. And given that they're sunsetting Wii U openly now, it's like, that time is coming sooner than later. In a year or 2 years from now, you may call customer support, and it's going to be like going into Apple Store with your Mac that's like 5 years old, and they're going to be like, we don't support that anymore. We don't repair that. But yeah, I never knew it. And then I was at GameStop, in fact, give them a shout out for giving some good knowledge. And I was putting my reserve on Binding of Isaac, which got announced for launch. It's like the remastered plus pack or something. I don't know. There's like 2 games maybe in the pack. And but the Binding of Isaac, Binding of Isaac? Isaac?
I think it's just
definitely
Isaac. Yeah.
It's Isaac. Okay, yeah, alright. Binding of Isaac. I've never heard it said out loud. Binding of Isaac, on reserve, and I was getting my Zelda reserve because they didn't have the SKUs when I reserved the system. I don't know how it came up, but the woman at the counter told me it. She's like, no, you can sync another gamepad to your Wii U. And I'm like, no, you can't. Like I know.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm on this podcast, see? And you have no idea what I know. And she's like, no, you can. I'm pretty sure. I could be wrong, but she was polite about it. I could tell she knew she was right. And I was like, all right, well, I'll find out. And yeah, according to the internet, you can, believe it or not, like breaking news here, it's not new news. It's just something that I have not heard talked about. You could go ahead, take your Wii U gamepad to someone else's house. Of course, you don't transport the games. Doing that, we all know that. It doesn't do anything other than replace the pad, but you can sync it just like you would sync like a remote, to the new console. And I checked it out. Like, so right now on eBay, if you want to buy yourself a backup, like Wii U gamepad for like future proofing your system, it's about $100. You're going to drop a hundo for the tablet by itself, which
I'm surprised people sell them separately because you can't do anything with a console unless you have it. So it's like, what are they? Because you can't. I don't know. That's just weird because you can't use the console without the gamepad. So I mean, sure, you could pick up the gamepad, but then the console that you have is worthless unless someone buys the gamepad for it.
Well, that's probably why the price is fairly high, because that's half the cost of the system. And so it's like, yeah, there's only going to be so many people whose Wii U broke and the gamepad is still fine. You know what I mean? So yeah, right now it's almost like funny because I am into future proofing myself for stuff like this. And my first instinct was, if it's $50, I'm going to buy myself one and put it in storage. Like literally, I'm going to wrap it up in bubble wrap and put it in a box somewhere so that someday when my tablet breaks and then you go online and find out, oh wow, the Wii U became really valuable because there weren't that many of them sold. And, now they're old and you can't replace them very easily. And suddenly if you want to buy yourself a new Wii U in like 6-7 years from now, you're going to be paying like far more than you would have paid for a new one right now. Mm-hmm. And the irony will be resplendent. So I was like, I'm going to future proof myself. But then I saw $100 and I was like, geez, that's a lot. Like I'm torn. Maybe I'm going to kind of like keep an eye on it. And then maybe after Switch comes out and Wii U starts to die off, but it hasn't been too long, maybe the price will drop because people start to unload it. And get a hold of one. Because at this point, I'm wondering how much more I'd have to pay for a whole Wii U. Because I didn't bother to check that versus just the tablet by itself. So, yeah. So anyway, it's worth noting for anybody who's listening to this and is a hardcore Wii U fan and wants to think ahead, since Switch is not going to be backward compatible with like apparently anything to do with your Wii U, from what we can tell right now.
Yeah, Nintendo is leaving that. It's abandoning that child forever and for always.
Yeah, so I don't think I reported this last week. There were a couple of things I wrote down last week that I didn't go over, but one thing was Miiverse and Street Pass aren't coming back. Now, whether they're going to do a different version of Miiverse or a different version of Street Pass, who knows? But the way those services are right now aren't returning. Which is weird for Street Pass because it's supposed to be like this console you take on the go. You would think they would have that. I don't know why not. I can see why they don't want to do Miiverse again because they need to pay people to moderate that. And right now, some people have posted like it's getting to be a big mess. So I'm sure they don't want to pay more people to go through all that again. Especially if this console actually sells, then it's going to be a heck of a lot harder to deal with. But, crap, what did you bring up before? I forgot.
No, you were bringing up that they're sunsetting both the Miiverse and the Miis. Well, not the Miis, the Miiverse and the Street Pass. That's all. I mean, like, I don't think you're off topic at all.
What did you say before?
I was just talking about future-proofing your Wii U, basically, or whatever, like, because they're not going to be backwards compatible.
Oh, that's it. So I read a post that said, or someone was interviewing a Nintendo rep, and they said none of the Wii U or Wii accessories are compatible, including adapters. So no GameCube adapter, no Wii remote, no nunchuck. Basically, any other controller you had are all useless on Switch, which I'm fine with. I would have been more fine with it if the prices for the new controllers were not as expensive, but I'm fine with starting from scratch, especially if these Joy-Cons have, like, better motion sensing. Like, it would make sense to not support the other ones because, you know, you have this better one. Like, it's not going to work with some of their games. It's just going to confuse more people than really help. And I'm pretty sure a lot of people, like, toss their Wii's or...
I'm not thrilled about the Pro Controller thing. I mean, like, unless you tell me why the Pro Controller for the Wii U wouldn't be equal and useful to replace or stand in for the Wii, the Pro Controller that they're going to now sell us for $70. I've rarely felt this way about Nintendo where I really can't understand it. I mean, maybe one of you guys can explain to me what these
So in the Pro Controller, it has the same thing as the Joy-Cons do. So it has the motion sensing, the gyro or accelerometer, all that crap, whatever you want. And it has HD rumble. I'm guessing this is so that even though they're not really useful in a Pro Controller.
HD rumble?
Yeah, it does.
Oh, I didn't even realize that.
Yeah, it's actually going to be used in the new Zelda as well, and some Dragon Quest Heroes 1 and 2. But I'm guessing the reasoning is, look, we're going to put this into the Joy-Cons, let's just put it in all the devices so that no matter what controller option you use, you're not going to be left out of the bubble. Like, right. I want to use the Pro Controller, but it doesn't have gyro, so I can't really use it for the... Like, someone was saying Splatoon, like, they like the gyro controls, but if they use a Pro Controller and it didn't have the gyro, then they would be forced to use the Joy-Con. So I think it's just, in a weird way, them future-proofing it. Like, let's just put it in everything, and then we won't have a problem going forward.
Yeah, that makes sense to some degree. I respect that. I mean,
I think they still could support... like, technically, there shouldn't be a problem supporting the Pro Controller because... Like, I don't think you would desperately need HD rumble or motion controls because, I mean, the basic controllers already come with it. So, I mean, like, even if it needed it, you would have it available to you anyway. But I think it's more or less the fact, just putting their foot down like, no, we're not supporting the other ones. Just let's start from scratch. There's no confusion, no nothing. Not these things are supported, but these aren't. And have some weird chart that people have to look through and get confused. So I think it's just for clarity's sake for the most part.
I can see that. I mean, I could see it go both ways. I mean, I can try and like soften my stance on it a little bit. It's mainly because I spent so much on Pro Controllers. I have 3 of them, and there is that part of me that's like, yeah, it is a kind of crazy situation when like you boot up a game for Wii U and like on the like pre-game screen, it shows you like 4 different controllers that you could use for this game, you know, like in Yoshi's Woolly World, or I forget what game I saw that in, but it's like funny because you're like, geez, this is a headache, you know, like for them, like, or Smash even, especially, like, you know, that is a headache, and I respect that from their perspective. At the same time, there's that part of me that's like, there's gonna be if there's any third-party support for the system, let's be honest, they're not gonna be using that super futuristic rumble technology. They're gonna be porting over a game. Is Skyrim gonna need the super duper new controller, or is it just gonna be like, you can just play it with a regular old Pro Controller? Well, you probably could, like, let's be honest, just play it with the regular Pro Controller, and there's me saving $70, you know, that's like, you know, it's the 70 thing that's really getting me. If you get down to it, it's the $70 thing. I'm like, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me for a controller? That is insane. And I still haven't quite swallowed that, you know. I'm just like,
That is a lot of money, yeah.
It's a lot of money for a controller. And you know, I don't know. We'll see. But anyway, all right, enough about that.
By the way, want to hear an interesting thing?
Sure.
I was at a GameStop, you know, to get the PS4 Pro. Mm-hmm. They didn't have a single Nintendo system in stock. Isn't that insane?
Wow.
All their Wii U's were sold out.
Sold out, or just like sent back?
Yeah, no more Wii U's, period, ever. And then apparently the 3DS's were completely sold out through the holiday, and they just never got a restock.
Yeah, it's tough to get a 3DS. I'd heard that from my friends who have kids who were trying to get them, for Christmas and all that.
That's nuts.
Yeah, 3DS is hot, man. It was like one of the toys of Christmas. It's apparently it's still going strong, which I've been privately thinking, given my tentative reaction to Switch, like you guys, that there's this little part of me that's like, I kind of hope they keep supporting 3DS for the foreseeable future, at least in some tangible way, because where's the Switch stuff going? I don't know. I don't want to be a negative Nancy.
Well, they have said that Sorry,
yeah, I was going to say that could move us into the next piece of news or whatnot, but, the Fire Emblem Nintendo Direct, there's a Fire Emblem game already scheduled that was just announced for May.
Yeah, that was definitely weird. So yeah, I guess we'll get into that and then probably go back to the other stuff. But, yeah, they had this Fire Emblem extravaganza. There's 20 minutes of... It's funny because some people were posting like, man, only a couple of years ago they said, if this Fire Emblem Awakening game doesn't sell, we're basically gonna cut off the series. And now it's doing so well, they announced like 4 games at the same time. It's like, crap. There's a game for 3DS coming out May. So, speaking of 3DS, they said, they're gonna keep supporting it. I mean, PR is PR, but they have shown off a bunch of games that are coming out this year. And I would at least expect support for this year. I don't know about next year. We'll see about that. The 3DS is still selling, so I'm sure they're going to keep supporting it, but I'm sure they're going to be slowly backing that off at some point. But yeah, they announced a 3DS game, or a Fire Emblem 3DS game, then they announced Fire Emblem Warriors, which is for the Switch, but also for new 3DS, which is weird. You would think he would just keep that exclusive, but... Or at least I would have think it would have been smarter if they kept it exclusive. It's not even coming to the original 3DS, like Hyrule Warriors Legends. I guess they learned from that, like, we better not put that out. It was not running well. And then they announced a regular Fire Emblem game for Switch. It's only for Switch. So that's good, at least apparently coming out 2018 or something, so not anytime soon. And then they announced the one for mobile. And it basically looks like what you would expect a Fire Emblem game on mobile to me. I mean, like, the Fire Emblem games already played like mobile games. It's a top-down strategy role-playing game, so, I mean, there's not really much you would really have to do to it, to make it mobile-friendly other than, like, add in your dumb microtransactions and whatnot.
I'm ready to make a bold statement. Are you ready for this?
You're gonna spend $100 on it?
No, wow, no.
We'll see about that.
No, my bold statement. Fire Emblem Heroes will bring in more revenue than Super Mario Run. There.
Yeah, I'd say easily.
Damn it! I thought, still bold prediction.
I mean, you know what? A bold prediction would saying it's gonna make more than Pokemon.
Okay, well that's no. I'm not delusional here now.
Hey, you wanted a bold prediction, that's a bold prediction. Yeah, that might be nuts. It's definitely gonna make a crap load of money, though. I mean, Fire Emblem's hot.
You think? I would think like it would be like struggle to get that one to like really take off, but I mean I have no idea. Just because it's like the average Joe in the street doesn't know what Fire Emblem is, it's like this is the first one where it's like even like Animal Crossing, I feel like maybe more people might know what it is. Fire Emblem, it's like I don't know. I mean, we're in a bubble for Nintendo, I feel like, on that one where we're like we know what Fire Emblem is, but like my wife who, lives with a gamer probably has never heard of it, because I don't go around being like, dude, Fire Emblem, you know what I mean? It's not, I don't know. Maybe. I mean, maybe there's more people out there that are going to buy it than I would expect.
Well, I think I just mean even from Nintendo fans, like, they already buy the regular games a lot, so I think, like, just them buying it alone and spending extra money on this will sell a lot, and I think, yeah.
Yeah, and I think it could do really well specifically in Japan. The mobile market there could really support it. I mean they got
Ariana Grande to appear in a Final Fantasy mobile game, so they're definitely crazy about their mobile games.
Yeah, I honestly think that it's possible. I mean, I think Japan could end up bringing in more revenue for this game, which would be a shift, because if you guys look at Fire Emblem sales numbers, the last game, Fates, ended up actually selling more in the US than it did in Japan, which is really interesting considering the franchise's history.
Are you pumped for all these Fire Emblem games, or do you think?
Oh, absolutely, man! I loved Fire Emblem. I had all three versions last year, and I spent, I played through all of Conquest, all of Birthright, which are the two base games, and I'm almost done with Revelations. I have like 3 chapters left or something. Mm-hmm. So I've played through almost all 3 versions too. So love my Fire Emblem.
Nice. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how well that does. Just some things I want to toss out there quickly before like some other bigger news pieces. So this Fire Emblem game is actually going to launch on iOS and Android at the same time. I guess they're learning from Super Mario Run, which is still coming later than Fire Emblem. Fire Emblem is in February 2nd, and Super Mario Run on Android is coming sometime in March. So that's kind of funny. Like, I don't know why it's taken that long to get to Android, but whatever, Nintendo. That's your prerogative, I guess. Some of the quick things are there's no more first-party games coming to Wii U outside of Zelda. That's not even a rumor. That's Reggie, stating it as fact. As if it wasn't evident the Wii U was already, in its grave. There's official confirmation. If anyone was holding out hope, I don't know. I don't think anyone was. Apparently Splatoon 2 is listed for August 18th from some UK retailer. It's probably likely since it says it's coming summer. LA Noire apparently is rumored to come to the Switch, which is really weird. I don't think it sold that well when it came out, so...
I think it did okay.
I just remember the studio having to close because of all the problems they had.
Yeah, I think the problems though weren't just because of the sales. I mean, there were actually
Sorry, go on. It sold 5 million copies apparently. So I didn't expect. I expected 1 million.
Yeah,
so that's nuts.
If you guys remember, one of the reasons the studio closed, I think the biggest reason was the way they treated their workers. I think there was a report that they weren't getting paid for extended periods of time. Yeah. They were working 80-hour work weeks. It was something. There was a few reports about it. I think that's ultimately what led to the closure. And then the fact that it just wasn't critically acclaimed. It looked like even though the game did make a lot of money, 6 million units according to the Vita charts here. I don't know what the actual numbers are. Even though it didn't look like there was much of a future for the game. Who knows? Maybe they're going to try to revive it for the Switch, the series.
I thought the reason that they closed was because they spent too much money getting the face tech, and they just had to close it because they couldn't keep them up or something like that. But yeah, that's interesting.
I do remember thinking that the game was ridiculously expensive to make, maybe $200 million. Mm-hmm. But even then, I mean, if you sell 6 million games, that's for a first game in the series.
Yeah, that's
I
insane.
don't know why you wouldn't keep it up.
I guess it depends on how long it took them to get to 6 million sales. Maybe it was over a couple of years versus just out of the gate.
Yeah, that's true.
Anyway, moving on. Mario Kart 8 is apparently going to have 5 battle modes. Shine Thief, Coin Rush, Balloon Battle, Bomb on Blast, and some new Piranha Plant mode. So that'll be neat rather than just one. I mean, they kind of have to go, if they're not going to add more racetracks, which I didn't expect anyway, to be honest, they kind of have to go all out with battle mode because it's the only substantial new thing they're adding. Apparently there's no plan to bring Resident Evil 7 to Switch. I bring this up because there was a rumor that it might have been coming, but Capcom says otherwise. At least for the time being. Because there's some rumor that they were playing with VR on Switch or some.
Yeah, that's right. Is RE7 all VR exclusive at first or something like that? Wasn't there something?
I think I heard you can play the whole game in VR or something, which, I mean, you could, even if it didn't really use it much.
I don't know. Regardless, I still say boo. That sucks. I love Resident Evil 1 through 4, and I've never played Beyond Revelations on 3DS because it left Nintendo and never came back, and I wish that wasn't the case. I would love to play those games, and I would, tell everyone I know to buy it on Switch if it came, but it's a shame. That's a big one for me. It's out of all those big franchises, that's one of the biggest for me. Yeah. That and Metal Gear are 2 games I would love to be able to play on my Nintendo system, and it just doesn't seem to be in my cards. It's a shame.
So EA says apparently Nintendo's listened to third parties since the beginning of Switch development. I guess we'll find out if that's true or not. NBA 2K18 is coming to Switch, and I decided to bring this up because it's a new game. It's not a game that they're porting from several months ago or like several years ago in the case of Skyrim. It's technically a new game. Now, whether it's based on the PS3 or 360 version or the PS4 and I was gonna say 460, PS4 and Xbox One, we don't know. But I mean, it's still a new game coming, so that's at least good to see that it's not just ports from AAA publishers at least. And then 1-2-Switch apparently will have at least 20 mini-games, so that doesn't really sound good, because usually with mini-game collections they say, oh, we have over this amount of games, and usually it's like 5 more games than that number, so...
Still in development. They're probably going to be working until the last day, like, okay, what other useless game can we put in here?
Yeah. I hope I don't forget the phone's in the thing. I put the phone in the drawer when it was ringing one time, and I forgot it was there, and couldn't find it for like a day.
I didn't pre-order 1-2-Switch, and it's funny because like I'm one of those people that would like typically maybe do so. I have to be honest. It's the kind of thing that I'm like, oh, neat. Like you are trying something different. That's kind of cool, but I can't bring myself to spend $50 on it until I know more. I'm just like, it'll be fun. But
how about you don't buy it and don't reward Nintendo's incompetence and just buy like 2 copies of Zelda instead?
Yeah. I don't give them enough money. There's no hope here on me like penalizing them in any way. It's just like whatever. I don't know.
I can see why they would not put it as a pack-in, not because, the value and let customers choose or some BS nonsense like that. They probably realize we don't have many games for launch, so instead of packing it in, we'll just see if we can make a couple of bucks off of it, because if a handful of people pay $50, that's gonna more than pay for the development of it, because most of the development is just, like the production values. Like, it looks like a film student and a programming student came together, and most of the budget went to the film student. But, I don't know, it's still weird, because I'm sure they put it out there just so they can make money off of it, but I'm pretty sure more people would buy it if it was like $20 instead. Yeah. So, I don't know. It's weird.
Yeah,
I guess we'll see how much they sell at $50.
That's one of those marketing decisions that they're like, when they look at their like lineup of what you can buy, there isn't enough to like have a choice. So they're like, well, why would we only sell it for 20 when we could sell it like half as many times for 50 and make more? It's like one of those things. There's just not enough choice. If it was competing directly with like a lot of games, then that would make sense. In this situation, it's like, well, why would we charge less? Just charge.
I'd like to think Nintendo's thought process actually goes something like this. So, the CEO sits there, Kimishima, and he says, all right, I need Reggie's opinion on something. And Reggie comes in and he says, so what do you think about this game? We're going to make a social game. Reggie says, I really don't think we should do that. Like, we shouldn't try to copy the Wii because that's what the Wii U did and it didn't work. And then Kimishima like listens really carefully, takes notes down, sends them out, and then like whispers to the other Japanese guy next to him and says, all right, we're just going to do the opposite of what he said. He doesn't know what he's talking about. And then they released 1-2-Switch for $50. That's how I imagine Nintendo running.
Jeez.
I agree with some of the comments I've seen of people saying they should have just made it a WarioWare game. Because I think that would be, like, even on the Wii, WarioWare was like a crazy hit. So it just has more personality if you made it a WarioWare game, and a lot more interesting, even if the minigames are virtually the same or whatnot. Like, there's just a snappiness to WarioWare too. It would just, I don't know, I think that would interest a lot more people than just, here's generic Schmo or Joe Schmuck, like, in the background that you don't really pay attention to. Like, I don't know.
It sure would be better.
I'm sure it would be easier too to make, because you just use 2D art images rather than filming people.
I don't know. See, I was going to say the opposite, because then you get into a whole like quality control, franchise management like situation with like one of your big characters where you're like, this is like, it's got no personality, so it can be anything they want it to be. They don't have to develop an actual game around it. Like, and I'm going to bet that this game is one of those games you develop on the fly as you're actually doing tests with the technology, that you're like, okay, we have like all these tech demos we're making, like, and now we're just like putting them all in one big box and like putting a ribbon on it and calling it a game. You know, it's like, these are all things we built over the time while we were developing the Switch. You know, it's like it would be a whole nother thing now. Now we have to break it all down again and make it into a coherent game. And that's another like 6-8 months in Nintendo's world, you know, at least, you know, even for WarioWare. So I'm thinking, I don't know. Well, yeah,
that's a possibility too.
Buy it day one if it was WarioWare. I will say that. You're right. I would buy it day one, but you know, it ain't WarioWare. So
maybe they figured Game and Mario on Wii U didn't do much, so they wouldn't bother.
Yeah, maybe. You know, it's probably a little bit of all of the above. We've probably hammered this point home. It's a little bit of all these things we're saying. So
yeah,
it's a shame. But
so moving on to some news. Apparently the Switch won't have multimedia apps, at least at launch. As far as one of the Nintendo reps said.
Matt. It's okay, Matt, because nobody watches Netflix. I mean, she uses Netflix. And
yeah,
I only use Netflix, so, you know, why do we need it?
That's insane.
They say at launch, so it sounds like they're going to have it, but here, let me just read a quote, and you can determine if they just mean specifically launch or put out or whatever. The Switch isn't going to replace your iPad. It's a dedicated gaming machine to the point where it won't have multimedia functions at launch, Nintendo's Kit Ellis told me. Don't plan to watch Netflix on the Switch, for instance. So, I mean, like, I'm sure they're planning it at some point, but how long that takes, probably, I don't know. That doesn't sound like a good idea.
It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Like, I mean, a good point is that it's not Nintendo's fault necessarily. Sure. Netflix is the one that would have to develop the app most likely for it and then give it to Nintendo. And so there's that. It's not, Nintendo can't throw Netflix under the bus and like say that outright. They can't say, well, it's not our fault. Netflix didn't like do their thing, you know, like they got to get on this, you know, with us, you know, and like, and then alienate like a major media company, you know, it's like, but it's not Nintendo who makes the Netflix app. It's the other way around. So there's a little bit there, but for me, this is insane because I'm like, I use my Wii U for our Netflix box at our house and I wasn't getting rid of my Wii U, but this also means anybody who might have been like looking to like upgrade, so to speak, from Wii U, which I know they're not like positioning it that way necessarily. Like, oh, we're like that. This is the next thing. I mean, it is, but it's not like, oh, it's a new thing. It's not Wii U. It's not a console. It's not a handheld. It's this new thing. And so they position it that way, but then that means you're keeping your Wii U if you have one, and it's your media streaming device, which I know it isn't for a lot of people, and I'm probably in a minority on that. You know, people are using other boxes, other devices to get Netflix on their TV, but I mean, I don't know. I just thought that was kind of dumb. I was like, I don't really understand why, other than maybe Netflix just doesn't feel like doing it yet and want to see if Switch takes off, or they want to have a little more time with it to develop an app. Who knows? But
I'm hoping it doesn't take too long, not because I'd personally get use out of it, but I think because of the nature of the Switch being portable, I think it would be a really attractive device to play it on. So, for instance, both Netflix and Eli's a sassy black woman back there saying. So the reason I think this is a lot more important than it was on Wii U is because both Netflix and YouTube now have download options. So rather than, I gotta watch this movie I can't really watch a movie on my phone because it's gonna eat up my data like crap, or even YouTube videos. And it's also a smaller screen and whatnot. It's like, hey, you can use your Switch, you can download Netflix movies or whatever at your house, don't eat up your cell phone data, and then bring it with you, and then you can watch it as you go, as well as play games and all this stuff. So I think, like, that could be a really good selling point for a lot of people, because you also don't have to buy a $600 iPad as well just to watch. I mean, I know people buy iPads and stuff for other things, but I mean, it's a cheaper alternative to do some of the functions you do on other devices, costing less, and also maybe not putting those other things at risk. So I think that would I think it would be a really attractive use, like, especially for, like, maybe Japanese audience who's a lot more mobile. It's like, hey, you can do more than just play games. You can watch, like, these shows on the bus while you're commuting and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny that you say that because actually maybe it's that whole new Netflix on the go universe that I only recently heard about, since obviously Wii U doesn't do that. I wasn't really aware that Netflix is like operating like that now, for the whole like download in advance mentality.
It's only for certain movies apparently, so I mean, it's not widespread to be clear, but I mean like, they are rolling it out, so...
I see.
I mean,
I wonder how much that could play into a decision not to have it at launch, because they'd be like, look, we're just going to roll it out, and then people are going to be like, what the heck? It doesn't do the cool new stuff, you know? But if you're saying that's not widespread yet, then maybe it still could just come back to like Netflix, like, not being ready, you know, and not having enough time to develop what they want to develop for the Switch. Because, you know, this has been kind of a closed loop with Nintendo being super secretive for like quite a while. And maybe Nintendo just didn't put a premium interest on like getting them a dev kit, you know, yet even. Who knows? We know how Nintendo's crazy about that stuff, you know, and so, yeah, I don't know. It does stink though, because I'm like, what? Are you kidding me? What are you kidding me? Like, I was already planning on keeping my Wii U in the living room. But seriously, some people probably weren't, you know, they would be like, okay, I'm going to take the Wii U and put it away or sell it or whatever, you know, and this is the new console, because that's how a lot of people roll, you know, and if you're using it as any kind of media hub, you know, well, yeah, that just got canceled. And a lot of people might not even know that when they buy it, you know, and they're going to take it home and think it's going to do those things, because why wouldn't it, you know, why wouldn't it? It'd be like, so there's an app for everything these days. Why isn't there an app for Netflix and Hulu and, you know, whatever other streaming service you know, you're into these days? Well, cause that's the only answer. Well, cause I don't know. Like,
I wonder if you can just download a video and play it on there as well. I'm not sure if you can do that.
What?
I know.
Download a file onto the Switch?
Yeah, like, well, maybe not directly through a browser, but I mean like, put it on an SD card and like have it read and actually like play the video. Cause I know,
No.
I did, mod a DS or whatever for some stuff, and I was actually able to like play movies on it, or not movies, like some episodes of Pokemon or whatnot, because I wanted to see how the battles were. And I mean, it worked on the DS, so I'm wondering if like the Wii would block that or not. I mean, like if it's modded, I guess it could do anything, but I wonder if there's a native way to watch videos you put on an SD card, because I'm sure there's a way to do that with pictures, but I guess no one's concerned about pirating pictures.
I'm sure the Switch is just backwards compatible with that Wii device that let you watch DVDs.
At first I wasn't sure what you were talking about. I thought you were actually talking about like another device that does that for the Wii. I was like, wait, what?
The Wii VD.
Oh, yeah, the classic technology of DVD is always compatible with all Nintendo systems, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, no.
You can see if it's compatible with the PS2.
Yeah. My God. I do have one of those. Look at that. It's like my newest Sony product. It's great. I'll go watch my TV. Yep.
So there's two other things. So we know the Nintendo Switch is region free. But the other question was, sure, I could buy a game from Japan, physically and just pop it in and it'll work. But the other question was, how do digital downloads work? Because that's kind of a more messy thing to deal with different regions and different stores and whatnot. And we did get some official, information. So for one thing, the Switch can have 8 accounts on it. So I mean, you can have 8 accounts on it. Apparently, you don't need to make a Mii. You can use one as your icon if you want, but Mii's, they don't even have their own dedicated app. They're shoved in the back of the settings, actually. You can just use some different random image that they give you access to if you want it as like the face of your account. So I don't think Mii's are really going to return much. They do have a Mii maker. It's just not, it's in the back if you want it. So basically it's probably dead, I think. But yeah, you can have 8 accounts, and how it'll work is if Unoclay, let's say, for whatever reason, wants to download some Japanese game off of the eShop, you can't do that with your normal account, but all you have to do is make a Japanese account, say you're in Japan or whatever, and then just download the game through there or buy it through there. and then it'll play on your Switch. So you just need to make another account. So it basically works like the PS4, apparently. So that's good to hear. I don't know how, Eli might be able to shed light on this. I don't know how it works as far as buying games on a different region store. So can you just use your North American credit card and it just, I guess, converts your money into yen or something? Or do you have to buy like cards and then...
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure. I mean, I think definitely the safest way would be to get cards. I don't know if your card would transfer. I mean, you'd think that, some cards have, don't have charges for international charges. Like my debit card has free international charges on it. So I mean, I think that it would be fine to use, but I really don't know.
Okay. Yeah, I guess the safest bet is just buy the eShop gift cards or whatever. Because I did that for an iTunes account once. Because I wanted to download some music and it was only in Japan or whatever. So I just downloaded like a Japanese eShop or iTunes card. And that works. I guess someone else will probably know more about how the credit cards work. But then one last thing is, so Disgaea 5 apparently was a smooth port to Switch. Apparently depends on how studios develop their games. Blah, blah, blah. The more interesting part, though, is they chose it, one, because they knew it was going to be an easy port, but also because a lot of their fans apparently wanted it on Vita, but rather than going with Vita, because apparently they would have to downgrade it, they went for Switch instead, and also because the Switch is portable. So this gets me wondering, do you think other Vita games are going to move over to the Switch now, or I guess people who wanted to develop on Vita? Now that they have like a haven to actually develop these games?
I have no idea. Like, I guess anything I would say would be speculation on something like that. I mean, I don't know.
What was the question again? Sorry, I completely got off track.
So Disgaea 5, instead of coming to Vita like their fans wanted, they moved it to Switch because they wouldn't have to downgrade it.
Yeah.
So do you think more Vita developers are going to move it over to Switch now?
I mean, yes and no, but that you got to think about what sort of repercussions it's going to have on Nintendo's ecosystem, and not that it's a bad thing, but the Vita came out. It's got a ton of Japanese games coming to it all the time. Small little indie games that come to the PS4 too. They've made it really easy to put on both platforms for small indie games. And developers are making a modest amount of money on it. A Disgaea game could come out, maybe sell 20,000 units on the Vita, or 50,000 or 100,000. They'll be okay. But it's not making Sony any money. This thing sold 13 million units, and it was actually supported pretty well for its first year and a half. Sony isn't putting any more games on it after like the first 3 years. People have kind of forgotten about it. Third parties really aren't touching it unless it is a Japanese kind of sort of game. So, I mean, that's definitely something you can think about it. So, yeah, I mean, the Switch, it's looking like it's kind of going to be another Vita. Tons of Japanese games scheduled for it. But I'm unconvinced that it's going to help, because, that the Vita was not a success from that.
I just mean as far as like Vita developers go.
But yeah,
success will be one thing, but
definitely. I mean, I think we'll see a lot of that, and we're already seeing a lot of it. Lots of tons of JRPGs are coming to the Switch.
Unoclay, you wanted to say something?
Oh no, I was making fun of Eli, like losing his train of thought, and I was just imitating him. That's all. That's all. Just making mild fun of my co-host. That's it.
And end call.
At least, all I was doing. Just being a dick. Just being a dick.
Nothing wrong with that.
Well, besides the part about being a dick, yeah.
Good old American values.
It's called politics, okay?
But yeah, apparently Nippon Ichi Software is gonna do more than one game. They even said like, yeah, we're not just gonna make one game and then quit all of a sudden. We're gonna have a lot of games. So at least from them, you'll get a lot of JRPGs and whatnot. So there's some support. It'll be interesting because the Vita. I mean, I guess the Switch fills a spot that the Vita sort of couldn't. So I guess if someone wanted to make a game that was better than the 3DS could handle, but didn't want to put on Vita because it didn't sell enough. They didn't have an option, but I guess with Switch they kind of do, hoping or providing it succeeds and whatnot. But it also, the Switch is basically a better Vita. The Vita was like console quality games on the go, but the problem was people had to develop like two different games. Like you couldn't just port the PS4 game onto the Vita unless it was a really small game like Sly Cooper or something. So that kind of screwed the Vita, where it's like it costs too much to develop a game and it's for a handheld and it's not really selling well, whereas the Switch is like, yeah, just put a game on it. It works with both modes, so you don't have to worry about making two different versions. It's, if the thing sells, it sells and you're good. So it'll be interesting to see how the support goes on for the rest of the year. Hopefully we'll see more at E3. But it seems like at least Japanese support will be there. Mm-hmm. Which would be cool. And maybe we can actually play some of the game. I hope now that the Switch is one device, even if they're not gonna, like, I guess localize the game, they'll add an English language to the game as well. I think some games do that. That's weird that they would have, like, English text, but it's not, like, localized. I don't know. I'm just kind of bitter because Capcom put a couple of games on the 3DS that never came over, and some of their excuses were like, well, we'd have to redo the whole thing because our text wasn't text, it was actually just images. I'm like, you're full of it. Give me the game, I want it. I can't import this 3DS, 2 or 3 3DS games. Or I can't just buy a Japanese 3DS just for 2 to 3 games they didn't feel like localizing. So now that will be possible, providing I can get through without reading it.
Yeah, I'm pretty surprised that they dropped region locking. We didn't really talk much about that, but hey, it's so insane to consider why they wouldn't do that. I just have never heard the argument of why you would not want people to buy games. I just have never understood it. Maybe there's an argument. Maybe there's a security issue. Maybe there's other issues that they, the whole like cultural differences stuff, like, that like sneak into a few games here and there, maybe is a concern that they're like, well, we want you to be able to like sniff panties in the Japanese version of the game. And then like, the American version, of course, we don't want you to sniff panties. We want you to like go to church or something, but other than that, like what, like, why wouldn't you want people to be able to buy more of your games? I just have not comprehended that. So that'll be neat because I am not an importer, but I do consider it for my older systems. There's like a couple there's a lot of cases where stuff for like older Nintendo systems, Famicom and such, the USA versions are like in the stratosphere of cost, and like so you could play the Famicom version, for instance, for much cheaper if you have a Famicom system, and it's the same for Super Nintendo, and as far as I know, probably the same for N64. So I've always kind of had that on my radar of something to get into someday when I run out of games. Haha, that's never going to happen, but neat. I'm happy for the people that like do it, because I know people like on the IGN podcast, like on NBC, you hear Jose talk about doing it all the time, that he's constantly, and Pear, who I think can read Japanese, they talk about, importing games, and it always makes me want to kind of get into it and try it like once or twice in my life and see, can I get through a game, like you said, in all Japanese. But, I don't know. It just the time, that's where do you get the time for another game? So I'm glad they're doing it. Glad they're letting it happen.
I'm reading this, and I kind of heard this before, but I thought I'd read a post. It's from Quora, Quora, and I think there's some like actual game developers that go on here. I'm not really sure what the site is. I just remember I went to this website because I googled like, is the Wumpa fruit from Crash Bandicoot like what the fruit is, and like the actual developer from the game does like made the game or something was like, yeah, it's like an apple or something. So apparently developers go to this website. It's weird that they answer that. But one of the people here, I don't know if they're a developer or not, but said it's because of price discrimination. Basically, if someone knows that they can buy a game from another country and it's cheaper in that country, they could buy the game there for cheaper, and I guess it would somewhat cannibalize the sales of the local version that they also spent time localizing, because obviously that costs money, so.
Right.
It's so weird though, because I mean, like, I don't think the majority of people would be doing that anyway, even if they did know, so I don't know how much that would actually hurt your sales.
Yeah, because the cost to import something is so high to get it mailed, most cases, like from a really foreign territory like Japan or something, you're going to pay a fair amount. Maybe piracy would be one thing because of China and stuff like that, because there's so much like knockoff stuff coming out of China, it's not even funny. So maybe piracy would be a thought but I mean, the price cannibalizing, I'm like, what are you saying? Like the Japanese version is like $20 cheaper? Like, is that really the case?
Well, I don't mean Japanese. Someone said like the Philippines or something, is cheaper, or, I forget what country is it. I think it was some European country or something, but, I heard on another podcast that like you could buy The Witcher for like $5 or $10 or something insane because, in that country, game prices were so high that people would just end up pirating the games to begin with. So rather than, launch them full price, they make them really cheap so that they get some money out of it. So I'm guessing that's their idea. I don't know. It's really weird.
Interesting. I've not heard that. I'll have to read up on that because I definitely, as soon as you talk about it, I'm like, yeah, why is that? It's one of those things you've never like dug into yourself, but interesting.
Yeah. There'd have to be a reason for it, or else it would just be like, why are you cutting out people possibly buying it? Sort of thing.
Right. Well, there has to have been a reason for it, but then like, given that we're moving into an era where even Nintendo's shed that issue now, I wonder what's changed, or is there going to be some kind of like, for whatever the concern is, I mean, we're talking at our butts here, like, cause we obviously don't know what we're talking about, we're just speculating, but like, they've gotten past it, or is it that they're in a position now where they're like, look, that's such a less concern that like, it's not a big deal compared to the like situation we're facing, that we need the sales more than we need to worry about it. Like, and we'll just like go for it. And if later we needed to change positions, we could start manufacturing them with region locking or something like that later on, or whatever, we could always change it, down the road.
I think it might have been a mix of just, this isn't much of a problem anymore, and there's more people complaining that they would pay money to get these games if they could, rather than the opposite. And probably also because I know Nintendo doesn't always follow what the competition is doing, but the PS4 and Xbox One are doing it, and it's like, okay, at this point, what are we still holding on to, sort of thing. I'm guessing that could have also been part of the thinking. I mean, same with online, They're like, the other people can get away with charging it. If we charge for it, like, no one else really has, you can't really escape it, at least in the console market. So, I mean, if we charge for it, they can't go to another competitor because they're also charging for it. So, yeah, I think it's just one of those kind of moves.
Totally. Well, we beat that topic to death. What else you got?
Yeah. No, that was it. Unless you have anything, specific you wanted to address.
No.
Cool. So we'll call that it for this week. I thought it was going to be a shorter episode. Apparently not.
Yeah.
I think we were talking about one of the announcements or something for longer than I imagined. But you can find me at the Mango Viking on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. Don't forget I'm holding that Pokemon contest and 5 Volcanion codes to give away, and you can't get them anywhere else because they're legendary or mythical or whatever the crap. And I don't think you can trade them online. I'm not sure. I would have to fact check that.
I'm pretty sure you can.
Okay, well, pretend you can't and then just come get it anyway. My channel. Basically, you just give a sentence or two of feedback. It doesn't really take much effort, so, what's the harm? Why not have 2 Volcanions if you really want, if you already got one before? Nothing wrong with that. So,
damn contest, people support this contest already.
I'm shilling.
People
join it. All I want is feedback.
Let the boy sleep in your bed, for God's sake. Come on.
The trash can is cold outside. Eli, where can people find you?
You can find me enthusiast.gg to read some of my writing. NintendoEnthusiast.com also works. And I've revived my YouTube channel, actually putting up videos. So that's Nintendo Network 64.
Cool.
Oh, and Twitter, Paulo Salon.
Yeah. And Unoclay, where are you still dwelling?
You know, people, you know where I'm still dwelling. It's the greatest social media site for gamers in the universe. My IGN. It works part of the time, and a lot of the buttons don't. So you probably can't join it at this point. But you know, I could loan you my login code, and then maybe you could log in as me and make some cool posts and talk to me via my own account. Other than that, I'm on the Nintendo systems as Unoclay, UNOCLAY, and stop on by.
Don't forget the one at the end of it.
Oh no, that's only on my IGN. I'm
okay.
Unoclay. That's because a long time ago I locked out of my account. So yeah, I'm Unoclay,
Gotcha. Straight
straight up just Unoclay on the Nintendo universe. So and I already got my Nintendo Network ID locked into for the new future of whatever Nintendo universe exists on the Switch. So yeah, so I'll still be Unoclay in the future. So there we go. All right.
Cool. So until next time, we'll see you. I screwed it up. I wrote this, dang it,
Full circle.
twice I screwed it up. I guess I left a previous wrong entry in here. I put, so until next time, we'll see you next time. Great job, Matt. Should have proofread that. So until next time, we'll see you next time.
And leave next time to next time.
The French fries are pretty good.